Welcome to the Holistic Living Podcast, my beautiful friends. You can expect my uncensored, real, and honest thoughts on a wide variety of health topics. If you love to learn on ways to improve your health, your life, your mindset, your emotions, and everything in between in a natural way, you are in the right place, and I am so excited to have you here. Hey everyone, welcome to episode 34 of the Holistic Living Podcast. It has been about a month since I've shared a podcast episode, so I'm really happy and excited to be back. I'm excited for this episode because I'm going to actually be answering your questions, your health-related questions that I was getting a lot of on social media, and we're all going to be learning a lot in this episode, so I'm really excited about it. But just before we get started, just to share a little bit about what's been going on my end specifically, there were a few back-to-back illnesses. We had strep and a few others that just kind of took my voice away, and I wasn't able to even talk for more than a minute without choking or coughing. So it was really hard to get content out, but I'm really happy that I'm finally feeling better and able to do this podcast because I really miss chatting with you guys and also sharing health-related content. It's what I love to do. So a few updates on the holistic spring end of things. First of all, for those of you who are new listeners, my name is Marla, and I'm a registered holistic nutritionist and homeopathic practitioner. My main focus, not just, in my practice and with the clients that I see, but also on social media, my podcasts, etc., is really heavily focused around chronic illness. I specialize in autoimmune disease, specifically, to niche it down a bit more, skin issues like psoriasis or eczema, and gut issues such as IBS. So I really love to work on and help people learn different ways to reverse their skin and gut issues naturally through holistic medicine. And with that, through a healthy diet, so good nutrition, good healthy lifestyle, and also, of course, homeopathics and supplements as well. So I like to share different ways, tips, and insights into how you guys can support your body naturally. So in terms of what's been happening around here, though, we have a few things going on. The first thing is I actually have been really getting into visualization and deep breathing and trying to encourage people to utilize deep breathing and utilize it as a way specifically to target the vagal nerves, to stimulate the vagal nerve, and to kick our bodies into the parasympathetic state. The reason why I am sharing this is that I started adding really awesome visualizations that are very calming, that are very relaxing, to my membership platform, holisticspring.org. There's so much incredible content, resources, protocols, videos, quizzes, and all kinds of content and stuff there. But what I've recently added was these visualization sessions that you can either watch or close your eyes and just listen to. And they help to stimulate the parasympathetic nervous system, which will stimulate healing in the whole body. And when we're working on stimulating the parasympathetic system and our vagal nerve, it really helps to repair our gut. It helps to lower whole body inflammation and so much more. So that was something that is recent that I've actually added to the membership platform. And I'm going to be starting to create a lot more content around this side of what I call healing, because I think that a lot of people are really focused on supplements. A lot of people are focused on, healthy eating and eating certain foods and avoiding certain foods. But a lot of times we're missing that specific aspect of supporting our mind and our nervous system. So I want that to be a big part of everyone's lifestyle and regimes, is not just taking care of the physical, like the supplement and diet side of things, but again, the nervous system, the mental aspect, encouraging a full and whole body approach to healing. So with that brings us actually into our first question. So I posted on Instagram a box, and I just asked you guys to submit your questions for me so I could answer them in one or a few podcasts. I got quite a few questions, and a lot of them are really big and in-depth questions. So I'm actually just going to answer them, just answer 3 today, so I can give you guys some good in-depth responses, I guess. And like I said, the first one is mainly around the visualization. So I had quite a few people asking me kind of about specifically, what are the different ways that we can encourage the gut to heal itself? And this brought me to talking about visualization and deep breathing and things like that, because one thing that really damages and destroys our gut and keeps it inflamed and prevents us from, I guess, essentially making improvements or headway in our symptoms and in our conditions is chronic stress. Majority of us are stuck in a fight or flight response, excuse me, and it is keeping us and our guts really aggravated and irritated. So to take this topic, I guess, into a few directions, let's start with talking about our nervous system. Our sympathetic nervous system is activated when we are in our fight or flight or freeze response. So it's a side of the body that is activated essentially when you are having stress or worry or fear. This side of the nervous system gets activated. We have the enteric nervous system. This is the largest and most complex unit of our peripheral nervous system. There's approximately 600 million neurons releasing a multitude of neurotransmitters to facilitate the motor, sensory, absorptive, and secretory functions of the gastrointestinal tract. And then we have our parasympathetic nervous system. And this one is our rest and digest side of the body. So this is what needs to be activated if we want optimal digestion, low anxiety, and our vagal nerve is part of the parasympathetic nervous system. So when the parasympathetic nervous system is activated, it brings dilation of blood vessels to get more blood flow to our organs, especially the abdominal area, so the gut. It allows us to carry more nutrients, and it increases bowel motility, and the secretions from glands and organs are increased, so more enzyme output. This whole process will start in the mouth with our saliva production, and then hydrochloric acid in the stomach, and then the enzymes from the pancreas for our colon, and then sodium bicarb and bile from our gallbladder will get released. When our parasympathetic nervous system is activated, this is kind of what's happening. The sympathetic nervous system, so the fight or flight side, constricts blood flow. It decreases gut motility and gut secretions. And when we are in this state, we cannot digest our food. So it has the opposite effect of the parasympathetic nervous system. The enteric nervous system consists of two plexuses that are found in the mucosa of the gut. The submucosal plexus regulates gastrointestinal blood flow, and it controls secretions and absorption and epithelial levels. So you can kind of see it like what I call the plumbing side, where there's a lot of blood flow and circulation that's increased. Now, within the enteric nervous system, the second plexus, it's called the myenteric plexus. It regulates the tone of the gut and regulation and contraction of intestinal muscle walls. So this is what I call more of like the electrician, where there's more electrical impulses and stimulation occurring. So what is really important to understand about these three different parts of the nervous system is that when we are in our sympathetic state, which most of us are so stressed out, right? We have chronic stress. We're always running around from one thing to the next. Most of us are eating on the go. We are all over the place. So when we are having the nervous system, this sympathetic nervous system engaged in our fight or flight response, essentially our body thinks that there's the constant threat, okay? There's always something that our body is fearing or worried about. So our dorsal vagal branch is activated, and there's a shutdown, collapse, withdrawal, and disassociation that happens. When this occurs, so if the stress is acute or extreme, if you're constantly stressed, our sympathetic nervous system activates. And then when the stress subsides, the parasympathetic nervous system would return. However, if everything is constantly feeling like a trigger, if you're always overwhelmed and stressed out, the sympathetic nervous system remains activated, which leads to anxiety, different gut issues, because now you have no blood flow to the gut, digestive issues, pathogenic overgrowth, leaky gut, and the list goes on. So what we want to be doing is, again, majority of people I come across are stuck in their sympathetic nervous system. We need to activate the parasympathetic nervous system, which if we do that, will also activate the enteric nervous system and at the same time, the vagal nerve, because the vagal nerve is part of our parasympathetic nervous system. So it's really, really important for us to have that vagal stimulation and get ourselves back out of the fight or flight state and into the parasympathetic state. And that's where visualization and deep breathing can be really helpful. And it's oftentimes something that most of us are not doing and are thinking it's not super important. I talk about this extensively in other podcasts, but also on my social media and to my clients as well, the importance of deep breathing. It's something that is so simple, yet something most of us are not doing. Majority of people have their shoulders tense, their neck tense. They're taking short, quick, small breaths. A lot of us are holding our breath throughout the day because we're so stressed. And again, we're running from one task to the next. So I want to encourage you guys for that, the couple questions that I was getting on social media about how can we support our gut. What are the different things that we can do to support our vagal nerve? It is deep breathing. And it can be hard to just sit down and take deep breaths for 15 minutes. So this is where I really like visualization. You can use beautiful visuals like a very grounding forest or a relaxing beach or sunset, flowers. There's so many beautiful things in nature that immediately calm our nervous system down. And then you pair it with beautiful, relaxing audio, the sounds of nature, calming music, and it further relaxes the nervous system. And then pair that with a guiding audio. So it tells you how to deep breathe, what to think about, what body parts to relax. And if you are combining all these together, you get a very, very relaxing few minutes to stimulate the parasympathetic nervous system, to completely de-tense yourself and help support the gut and the vagal outflow. So that's what I use visualization for. The sessions that I've been sharing on holisticspring.org are essentially sessions that I've created. There's some that are a couple minutes, and then there's some that are a little bit longer, 5 to 10 minutes or even more. And you can kind of choose what you have time for. And if you are really busy, you can turn on a 1.5 minute visualization. And by the end of that 1.5 minutes, you're going to feel a lot more calm than you did before. And if you have more time, you can do longer ones and actually fall asleep to them. So there's some really great ones, and more are being shared all the time. And this is really something that I encourage you guys to take advantage of, and also to really, I would say, invest a little bit of time in. I know it can be hard when your to-do list is longer and has more stuff on it than there are hours or minutes in a day, but take a few minutes. This will be a game changer for your gut health and for your anxiety, depression, and all the other, hormonal issues and things that arise when you have chronic stress. I know so many people who are burnt out, women who are losing chunks of hair, and people who are graying quick and too early, and all these things. This is all stress driven. Even cholesterol and blood sugar imbalances are stress driven as well. So it's so important that we're taking care of our body, not just thinking about the supplements and the diet, but really looking deeper into what we can be doing for our nervous system, for the mental side of things as well, to stimulate the body's healing abilities. So that's to kind of answer the first question. Do the deep breathing, the visualization. It will get you out of the sympathetic state and into the parasympathetic state, which will activate your enteric nervous system, your vagal nerve, and that parasympathetic nervous system. All right, so the next question that I had was actually about natural flavors. So a few people were actually asking me, I think I got like 10 or 11 people asking about natural flavors. So that's kind of one of the questions that I picked because it was one I saw more of. A lot of you were wanting to know, why are natural flavors technically not healthy? So to explain a little bit, I got some snippets from different research articles from FDA. I'm going to read a little bit to you, try to compile it together so that you guys have a little bit of information on exactly what natural flavors are. So I know a lot of people, when they see natural flavors, like right away we're thinking, there's going to be lemon or, lemon extract or something like that. And it's something that's natural. But unfortunately, That's not always the case. So the biggest thing or biggest takeaway, I guess, is natural flavors are composed of over 100, sometimes 100 different ingredients to get that flavor. And as long as it initially was from something natural, it doesn't matter what happened after that. So whether they had to heat it up or mix a bunch of chemicals with it, if initially the ingredient, the flavor stemmed from something that was natural, it could be a plant, it could be like an animal hoof, it could be a bug, it doesn't matter. But if it was something natural, they can extract it and consider it to be a natural flavor, even though it went through a massive chemical process after that. So that's just what I kind of want to start you off with. So some information, natural flavors, this is from the FDA website. A natural flavor is an essential oil or extract from a plant or animal source. It can come from different sources such as spices and herbs, fruit or fruit juice, vegetables or vegetable juice, edible yeast, root, bark, buds, plants, meat, seafood, poultry, eggs, dairy products, fermented products. Okay, and the list goes on. So heat or enzymes are used to obtain the flavor from these natural sources and then to add them to food. However, this is where things start to get a little bit more unnatural. Okay. And most of the time when you're consuming something and it says natural flavors, there's quite a few chemicals. So even though, again, they came from a natural source, they often will contain artificial and synthetic chemicals that are added during the manufacturing process. So the Environmental Working Group mentions that these flavor mixtures can be made up of over 100 chemicals, like I just mentioned. There can be solvents, emulsifiers, flavor enhancers, and preservatives that will make up 80 to 90% of natural flavors, which will obviously cause them to then deviate from their original quote unquote natural source. So why are these products allowed to be labeled as natural? Well, as it turns out, the word natural really doesn't have, I guess, like a formal legal definition. And the US specifically has not established clear requirements for natural claims used by manufacturers, which can then obviously make the use of the term natural flavoring quite misleading. Now, this is applying to North America. I'm not sure around the rest of the world how their natural flavors work, but at least in North America, this is how it works. So they're found in a wide variety of packaged foods and beverages. And I find that a lot of times you will see companies that you think are really clean and organic, and then they have these natural flavors. Now, some companies, some like reputable companies that say natural flavors, when you inquire with them and ask truly what are the natural flavors, they are simply natural flavors. They were extracted from a plant, minimal processing, not bad at all. However, majority, if you're looking at granola bars, you're looking at like carbonated beverages and things like that, I can assure you that those quote unquote natural flavors have gone through heavy processing and actually have a lot of chemicals. So the difference, I guess, between natural and artificial flavors is just the original source that they came from. Unlike natural flavors, artificial flavors are man-made in a lab and they don't come from an edible source to start with. They're made using FDA-approved flavoring chemical or food additives, and really, the FDA defines artificial flavors as anything that adds flavor to food that is not found in nature. Okay, so that's kind of the difference there. You might see sometimes that some foods have artificial and natural flavors. So food manufacturers will sometimes use a combination of natural and artificial flavors when creating their product. The use of artificial flavors will help reduce the cost of the product, making them cheaper for consumers because, again, they're made in a lab. Artificial flavors are also more reliable to use than natural flavors. So in that sense, too, they can easily create like an identical product each time. But most people they find that the term natural more appealing. They'd rather buy something that says natural flavor. So for a lot of companies, because the consumers are wanting that quote unquote natural flavor, they assume that obviously the item is a healthier choice. A lot of food manufacturers are just using these natural flavors instead for better sales. It doesn't mean that the product is healthier. And in terms of artificial flavorings, they do undergo testing before being approved for use by the FDA, but I do want to remind you that the FDA approves food colorings and all kinds of highly toxic products and compounds that they have later found out to cause cancer and have removed them from the market. But FDA really does approve almost everything. So seeing something that says FDA approved doesn't make me feel comfortable based on what they've approved in the past. When these natural flavors have been consumed at the intended levels and they are believed to be safe to consume, the FDA will approve it. So obviously, if someone's consuming something in a high enough amount, there might not be studies that show that that is safe. I'm not sure how long or what the consumption amount is for these ingredients and these artificial flavors or natural flavors for FDA to approve them. That's where things can kind of get iffy, because unless you're following people who are consuming these flavorings over the course of many, many years, you can't know for sure the long-term implications of them. But that's essentially the breakdown of natural flavor. So as long as it initially came from something from nature, what happened after that, the manufacturing process with all the chemicals they needed to add to, make the final product, does not have to be natural. And most of the time there's quite a few chemicals and solvents that are added. So I hope that makes sense. So in terms of the question that I was getting, should we avoid natural flavors? It's up to you. I do my best to avoid it. There are, again, some companies that I really love that do add some natural flavorings. And when I've inquired, like into their chocolate, for example, and I'm like, you say natural flavoring, they're like, it's pure vanilla, or it's pure lemon essential oil, or something like that. So there are amazing companies who make, collagens and different things, and they're truly not adding a chemical flavor. It is natural. And so those are safe. So I just say, do your research, but don't feel like a product is necessarily healthier if it says natural flavoring, because a lot of times it still has just as much chemicals. The last question that I'm going to answer for this podcast has a bit of a response as well. So I don't want to make this episode an hour long, and I'll just end it on this one, but I'll do another Q&A session to answer more questions that I was getting. So this final question was about recurring infections, specifically antibiotic resistant staph and biofilms. And I guess what's kind of happening there, and what are some things that we can do to, help our body fight against these recurring staph or antibiotic resistant staph and biofilms. So one really quick thing that I want to stress here is, if we have a persistent infection, if there's a pathogen in our body that our body's having a hard time fighting on its own, it usually means we need to boost our Th1 immune system. We need a strong and healthy immune system. I want to stress this here. Our bodies can heal themselves. Our bodies have been doing this since the beginning of time. Our bodies have fought millions and millions of viruses, bacteria, and all kinds of pathogens over the course of human existence. And obviously, there are times where, people will die from different pathogens that they're exposed to. But what it comes down to, it's not that the body doesn't know how to fight something or doesn't know how to heal itself. It's that the individual didn't have enough nutrients or health or quote unquote tools for its body to heal itself. So if you are having a lot of stress, if you're not eating a nutritionally dense diet, if you're not getting enough sleep, if you're taking, so many medications that are, suppressing the immune system, so on and so forth, you can't expect, obviously, your immune system to be able to fight everything. But in terms of what our bodies can do, if you have a healthy, functioning immune system, your body can fight everything. This is what we believe in holistic health. Our bodies can heal themselves 100%. If you are having a hard time healing yourself, if your body is not able to fight a pathogen or infection, it's because the immune system is exhausted. It's because you don't have enough nutrients that the body needs. It's because you might be too inflamed or too acidic, and the list goes on. So if there is a recurring infection, if your body's having a hard time fighting something such as staph, for example, that is telling us that your immune system needs support. Specifically, again, the Th1 support. Our Th1 immune system, the cells that are produced in the Th1 side of the immune system, so our T helper cells, T helper cell 1, are meant to scan our body for viruses, pathogens, and cancer cells and clear them out. If we have a robust immune system, if it's working well, if our body's really healthy, our immune cells should come in and notice all these different bacteria, viruses, whatever doesn't belong, and it should be able to destroy the pathogens and their biofilms, no problem. So what I like to do when someone is struggling with recurring infection is to make sure we are bolstering up the Th1 immune system. There's a few ways that we can do that, and I'll get to that shortly, but I want to very briefly touch on antibiotic resistant strains in general, or just strains that are hard to fight. We know that antibiotic resistance is a significant concern, and the prevailing view is that antibiotic resistance is made worse by obviously the overuse of antibiotics, which is leading to selection pressures by doctors that favor the emergence of antibiotic resistant bacteria and related organisms. It's also clear that the population of most quote unquote modern countries experience factors that influence individuals towards, and this is important, Th2 dominance. I've talked about Th2 dominance so much over the course of my practice over the past almost 10 years. These Th2 promoting factors include chronic stress, exposure to environmental factors like pesticides, plastic residues, mold, other respiratory pollutants, blue light from too much screen time, bad inflammatory diets, and the list goes on. The tendency towards Th2 dominance in the population can make individuals more susceptible to getting infections and that antibiotic resistance. If their Th1 and natural killer cells and cytotoxic T lymphocytes and M1 macrophage systems are functioning poorly, that's when you can expect to start experiencing recurring infections and biofilms and that antibiotic resistance. With antibiotic resistance as an added consideration, the need to be sure that we have an adequate support for our Th1, our natural killer cells, our M1 macrophages, and our cytotoxic T lymphocytes systems is really important. And we also want to make sure that there's good lifestyle support and nutrition support as well. So what should we be doing if you have recurring infections and things like that? What are some things that we want to be doing? Before we specifically talk about staph, just in general, we want to be very careful when and the type of antibiotics that we're taking. It's really important to only take antibiotics when absolutely necessary, okay? Absolutely necessary. A lot of times if we have a symptom or a condition, doctors are going to say, oh, here's an antibiotic without necessarily 100% needing it. Now, sometimes we absolutely do need the antibiotics, but there are times where they are prescribed unnecessarily when the child or the adult could have overcome the ear infection or the health issue on their own. Their body can fight it, especially if you're supporting it nutritionally. So usually if an antibiotic is recommended, you want confirmation of infection via a blood test, urine or stool sample or ear swab, etc. In terms of even taking antibiotics for acne, that's not, in my opinion, something that should be done. I think that we're just taking antibiotics for way too many things rather than getting to the root of the problem, like clearing out the gut from pathogens naturally and changing our diet and removing inflammatory foods. So that's the first thing, is just be careful with antibiotics because they're great when you need them. But if you're taking them unnecessarily or too often, you are going to start to form that resistance to them. Secondly, again, we should be supporting our Th1 system, our natural killer cells, etc. The way that we do that is by eating a really nutrient-dense, anti-inflammatory diet. You want to be taking adaptogens to reduce stress, like holy basil, chaga and reishi medicinal mushrooms, ashwagandha, rhodiola. You also want to be sleeping with your circadian rhythm. So don't go to bed at 1 a.m. and then wake up at 12 in the afternoon. Go to bed between 9 and 10 and wake up between 6 and 7. So you're going to bed with the night as the sun goes down and you're waking up as the sun comes up. You can take melatonin if necessary. Melatonin actually promotes Th1 immunity. You also want to be reducing dysbiosis by doing a pathogen cleanse seasonally. I have an incredible cleanse that includes immune support and liver and kidney drainage, and it's linked in the description of this podcast episode. It's been a incredible resource for thousands of people trying to clear their overgrowth and support their gut and their immune system. So you can check that out. You also want to support blood sugar with things like berberine, inositol, and choline if needed. And of course, again, supporting your Th1 cells directly with sulforaphane, berberine, liposomal glutathione, and N-acetylcysteine. And then you want to do transcutaneous vagal nerve stimulation frequently and deep breathing. You want to exercise and then reduce stress and anxiety day to day. If we are careful with the medications and antibiotics we're putting into our body and not overdoing it, and overall we're leading a healthy lifestyle that does not favor Th2 dominance, we're at a much lower risk for developing antibiotic resistance, and we have a better chance of having antibiotics being strong and effective for us should we ever truly need them. There's an article that I love. It's from Lancet, Antimicrobial Resistance Collaborators. It's a 2019 article, and it's the global burden of bacterial antimicrobial resistance, a systemic analysis. So you guys can check out that article. It's really, really helpful if you want to learn more. There's some really great ones as well that are going into some detail on antibiotic resistance. Now, specifically, I want to share some of my favorite effective natural and herbal, what I call like antibiotics, essentially, that I find really, really help if you have like recurring vaginal yeast infections, and even things like staph, strep, etc. These can really, really help. So the first one is berberine. This is a broad spectrum antimicrobial, antifungal, and biofilm disruptor. I use this in my practice all the time. It's an amazing Th1 immune promoter as well. Obviously, make sure you don't take any supplements without checking with your doctor or practitioner first to make sure it's right and safe for you. The next one that I love is neem, N-E-E-M. It's an anti-malarial, antifungal, antibacterial, and also biofilm disrupting agent. There's a study from Barua et al. 2017 that explains the powerful effects of neem and how it can be used against viral and bacterial strains. The third one that I love so much is black walnut. This is an antifungal, antiparasitic, and antimicrobial remedy. Con Van Ho et al. 2018 has an incredible article on this as well to confirm its use. Olive leaf is amazing. This is an antifungal, and I love using this specifically against Candida albicans. There's an article from 2015 from Zed Nasrallahi, and they go into so much detail on how olive leaf is amazing and how people who have stubborn overgrowth and viral component as well as H. pylori and took this got relief. Caprylic acid is the next one. This is an antibacterial, antifungal, and antiviral. It is superior to and less expensive than Diflucan. So if you have a yeast overgrowth, I love this one so much. Great for like yeast infections, oral thrush, things like that. Then we have oregano oil. This is amazing for H. pylori. It also boosts the immune system and can work against parasites. We have berberis, or the extract berberine, which is the active component of berberis, and it's amazing for fungal overgrowth, and it actually inhibits the pathogens from adhering to the walls of our mucosal membranes. Pau d'Arco is another one. Pau d'Arco is a gentle herb. It's a mild antifungal, and it's really great for if you have mild overgrowth. So it's nice for kids. It's not super aggressive, and it's amazing for skin issues. And there's some awesome articles from Fabio 2001, Fabio et al. 2001, going into detail on Pau d'Arco. Wormwood is another one. Now, this is really antiparasitic. Pharmacological studies have provided evidence of new, previously unknown directions of biological activity of extracts from the wormwood, the herb, the leaves, or essential oil of the plant. It's antimicrobial, antioxidant, anti-cancer, anti-allergenic, and so much more. And the last one that I want to mention is clove. Clove is incredible. The volatile vapor of clove essential oil demonstrated to be an effective antifungal agent against several human pathogenic fungi. And there's some really incredible findings on its efficacy against things like athlete's foot and lens preservation as well. So there's an article from Yoon Chi et al. 2007 that you can check out to learn more on the incredible effects of clove. So those are some of the amazing natural antifungals and antibacterial remedies that I like to use as a first try against infection. And then obviously if these don't work, then you can turn to antibiotics if needed. But I find that a lot of times if you're taking these, they actually are quite effective, especially if you take them early on and catch, the pathogens before they have a chance to really, really multiply. So these are some things to look into. Again, check with your doctor before taking anything, and always, confirm whether or not you truly do need antibiotics. But we know that today they are overprescribed for sure, and it is leading to more biofilm production, more antibiotic resistant strains, and more recurring infections. So it's really good to support your Th1 immune system, like I mentioned, and really do all of those first line defense and prevention, and then only use antibiotics if absolutely necessary. So I'm going to end the podcast here. I hope that you guys learned something. Thank you for sharing your questions with me. And I will be doing probably another episode next week going into some more of the questions because there were quite a few. And I just want to try to keep my episodes to under 40 minutes if possible. So we will try to get to more questions, but I really appreciate all the submissions and your patience for this podcast. Thank you guys so much for listening. I hope you have a beautiful day or night wherever you are listening from, and I will talk to you in the next episode.